Welcome to the Roadshow Podcast.
Yeah.
Malik.
How's it going?
Good, bro. Have you been hearing much about the elections and whatnot that's going on in America at the moment?
I have been. It's been very interesting.
All right.
Very
What's your
interesting.
take? If you have one.
Yeah. Not what you would expect. So I think that, I know it's a buzzword to say these days, but the country's very divided.
Mm-hmm.
And people need to remember that both of them are on your side. And that is very hard for people to overcome, because there's a part of us that wants the other guy to be an enemy. Yeah, our ideological opponents are our enemy. But they are in a sense, but you have to keep it in perspective, as in, like, your neighbor. You might hate your neighbor, but if you go to war, that's your brother in arms, right? And if America goes to war, for example, the next president is going to be the guide for the country, and you need to stand behind him, no matter if you're Democrat, Republican, and so on. And that fundamental underlying ethos is gone. Compare it with John McCain, 2008. I don't know if you've ever seen this. His concession to Obama was one of the most beautiful things politically you can see compared to what you see today. Mm-hmm. He pretty much echoed what I said, that we all stand under one banner, and the disagreements that we have are political disagreements about how to run the country. And there was this woman, this is a viral clip, this woman saying that to McCain, right, when he was doing his walking around in the crowd. She was like, he's an Arab. And then he was like, no, ma'am, he's a good American family man, right? He's a decent man, right? And it happened a couple times, and he got booed, right? And he said, I quote, I'll paraphrase quote, that...
Just want to talk into the top of the mic, sorry.
Sorry, yeah.
You can move that shit around as much as you want.
He said, you don't want to be scared of whoever wins this election. And he was booed. And that was funny, right? Because what's the inference there is that the people who booed him want to be scared of Obama. They want to be scared of him. And their leader, who they were following, was telling them, you don't need to be scared of Obama. It's okay. And they didn't like that. They wanted to be scared. So we play ideological games when it comes to elections, right? And this has just gone crazy. And Biden has criticisms, and Trump obviously has criticisms as well. But one needs to temper that urge to paint either side as the Antichrist. That's the problem, right? And the reason why I say this, there's a very particular reason why I say this, is because it's very scary what's happening in the world right now, and a lot of people do not know how scary it is. Kevin Rudd very recently pretty much said he believes we're on the verge of World War III, right? If you look at the UK, they're starting to talk about conscription. The United States, just last week, I'm pretty sure, signed every single male between the ages of 18 and 26 to selective service.
Mm-hmm. The draft is back.
Yeah, Matt. Well, I don't know about if it's going to turn into that straight away, because they like to draw a distinction between selective service and the draft. Mm-hmm. It's just, but you need to sign up.
They brought the draft back as of yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Well, there you go. So, these powers around the world are looking into conscription. Australia hasn't really talked about it. A lot of experts that I've read on doesn't think conscription would work with Australia, but it's never ruled out. It's never ruled out at all. And so there's some scary things happening in the world right now. People are throwing around terms such as the microchip war. I don't know if you know about the microchip war. We can get into that a bit. It's very interesting. Mm-hmm. But look, there are enemies outside of America, and they want division, right? So it is proven that Russia has created ads and created Instagram accounts and Facebook accounts called, like, Make America Great Again, this and that. And they post stupid Democrats and they post, I don't know, outrageous content. This is all proven that they've been doing it. So why? Why are Russia looking into promoting the right wing in America and then promoting the left wing in America, and creating this division? Why do they want that? Because they know it'll cripple the country. So don't play into it when the presidential election comes up. Keep your disagreements with either side as controlled criticisms in good faith, not in like, oh my God, Biden is this and that. I understand that. I used to be a part of that as well. Like for either side is thinking the other side, they're
Demonizing.
Yeah, demonizing, right? And I think that is you're playing into the enemy's hands, right? Because there are people outside of America, and we take America for granted to a degree, that if the world was in their hands, it would look very different. Yes. Very different for all the equalities that we advocate for. Sorry, I'm rambling. I'll let you speak in a minute as well. That we advocate for today, such as rights for women and rights for everyone, right? And both sides agree with that. It's not like a left wing thing, because the left wing goes on about equality a lot, right? But the right care about equality as well, and that is being threatened by foreign nations which are trying to seed division. So that's my thing.
Okay. Well, you went over a few things there. Okay. Firstly, in what capacity do you think people need the authority? Say you were talking about John McCain and Obama, the concession. Do you think that it's a positive outlook to want more authority for an older type of person, because it's almost like God, something that they don't know too much about, but if you fear God, it means you love God. Is it the same with like people in power and politics? Is it, if we fear them, they will give us the respect back that we can then grow as a community or grow as a country? Or is it fear just because of the wrath?
I don't think fear, it depends on the situation. I don't think fear is a good motivator. Sorry, it is a good motivator. That's the thing, right? But it's not a stable form of motivation. Are you talking about, say, from like a leader like Trump or Biden?
Well, no, you were saying that the people wanted to fear Obama, correct?
Oh, yep. So I think this is what it is, right?
Or wanted authority, rather. Sorry.
People have their individual problems with the world, and then to make our individual problems make sense, we form a narrative. And in a narrative, we'll naturally create a heaven and a hell. We'll create the best possible reality and the worst possible reality. It's a feature of the human brain that has allowed us to survive, right, over millions of years or whatever one might believe. That capacity to create narratives can be weaponized against the self, and it can create things that aren't there. So I think, for example, you might have a Republican and they're like, I'm seeing all of these problems in the country. Inflation is, going up, whatever. There's more immigration. Crime is going up. And then they'll create a narrative or buy into a narrative that they're being sold to. And this is what I'm touching on with foreign countries creating that narrative for people within the United States, right? We want to make our concerns make sense, and then when we do that, we want there to be the more clear the evil, the more clear the solution to overcome the problem. So we want a devil so that we can be like,
cast blame at.
Yes, that's who we fight. That's who we overcome. Once we overcome him, everything's going to be okay, and the Holy Land will be ushered in again, right? Hence the Make America Great Again, the sentiments of a return, right? And if you look throughout history, that return you're not really returning to anything.
Abysmal.
Yeah. So that is what I think the psychological forces are creating, that desire for. They wanted McCain to say Obama is in cahoots or whatever with the Arabs. He's ripping this country. He's, they wanted him to say that so they can be like, yes, you're our answer then. We want to put our faith in you So we want there to be a bad enemy. That's the forces at play.
That's fucked up. It seems to be that Joe Rogan has a joke on this, and he goes, no, it wasn't Joe Rogan. It was fuck knows, but it was. I like the left hand puppet the best. I like the right hand puppet the best. Mm-hmm. And then somebody else says, "Oh, they're controlled by the same guy."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it doesn't matter. Everybody needs the divisional tribology. Mm-hmm. Is that we need the understanding that the other person is against us, and we need the understanding that our team is going to be for us. Mm-hmm. And when you have that division, it ensues chaos because then the country is split again. Mm-hmm. It seems like they're towing the line, if you will, of the Civil War. Mm-hmm. Right? Every election they toe the line of a civil war because it depends on how far that person can push it. It seems to be that they have a graft of what is necessary to get to like a 1942 World War II state, and they have an understanding of where you can get to a civil war state with, was it 1817? Whatever the fuck the Civil War was. No, that was before then, wasn't it? It was like 1779. Anyway.
1791, I think, around that time.
Okay, right. Completely off.
Yeah.
But it seems to be that regardless of that, they will push the most craziest ideologies. But because they know where it leads to now, and they know that the other parts of the world are in jeopardy, like Ukraine, like Russia's pushing of the NATO line. Then you've got Taiwan with China. There's all these little tiny well, not tiny in any regard, but compared to what America can ensue, there is a lot.
A pseudo Cold War.
Right? And it's almost like, well, let's go after the person rather than the ideology. So that's why you have Biden stating, "Oh, you slept with a porn star" and all this kind of stuff over debates. Why aren't you attacking the ideology? They're going at Hunter Biden for Joe Biden, kind of like trying to attack the person and not the ideas. Like Joe Biden said, he's going to bring back Roe v. Wade at a 9-month term abortion, and you're like, wait. Me personally, I'm not an American. We don't live in America, right? You are an American, right? Your father was American, correct? If you were to live there, that would be a problem, right? Maybe not for you, but for me, if my partner just left me and we were living in America, and we're at the point we're at now, which is 8 months or whatever it is, she could just kill it. What?
So I think
there's so many facets to that argument as well.
There are, but I have a problem with the frame of the conversation. Is that we are creating extremes, and extremes aren't good. So look, whenever a big geopolitical, there's a big geopolitical problem going on at the moment in the Middle East, right? And the strategy has been, in terms of the dialogue on the geopolitical matters, the strategy has been to run to the extremes as fast as you can, right? And when you run to the extremes, you carry around the moral weight to cast your enemies as evil. That is the strategy currently. This is my problem, right? Is that I think is trained behavior from a combination of culture and a combination of foreign countries creating division within America, right? So, for example, it might be Group A did something bad to Group B. Group A systematically wants to eliminate and destroy Group B. That's the claim being made from the bad thing, right? So, for example, if you have Donald Trump, Donald Trump stands for something. Like, for example, he wants to give Roe v. Wade back to the states. Donald Trump wants to remove all rights, from women and their body, right? That's not a one-to-one, but that is what gets thrown around, right? Is that the conversations become very extreme very quickly, right? And the nuance for conversation isn't being had. So what Donald Trump is saying with regards to Roe v. Wade is, this is what he says, it does not mean what he actually might think, is that the decision to give it back to the states has been like a unilateral consensus for many years, and only recently has it become this extreme position to decide to give Roe v. Wade back to the states. People at the time where, you know, Roe v. Wade was federal said it was a bad idea, who were the ones who did it. That's what Trump is saying. So it was kind of nuanced. He's not saying, well, I'm against abortion across the board, but it should be given back to the states, right?
Because it was federal, right?
Yeah, it was federal, and there were disagreements about that due to a variety of factors. Anyway, the point I'm making is that a complex conversation devolves into politics, right? What I mean by that is I studied politics. I started off, and then I found this. This is what happened, that politics was watered down philosophy. It was weak philosophy, right? It turns a very complex, so abortion's a good example. The conversation over whether abortion is or is not a good decision is a several 100-year-long debate in which multiple countries, multiple courts around the world, and multiple states within the countries have been debating about the conduct, you know, for a long time. The arguments that are constructed with regards to abortion are arguments that you never will hear within the political conversation. It goes really deep, really technical. There's a lot of sub-conversations about the value of life, where life begins, where it, you know, so on, right? It is a complex situation.
Is the complexity used in a way to perpetuate the argument? Because politics is ongoing. Nobody ever goes, there's
the
a
opposite.
Final, you know, it's always kind of pushed and pushed and pushed.
Yeah,
like you'd say climate change, abortion, all these things, they never have a finality to them.
Politics needs to condense philosophy in a sense, right? Because if it's too obscure, the politicians can't do anything with it, right? So that's why it devolves. It has to weaken, right? So all this complexity gets lost in my body, my choice, and then the other side is like life starts at conception. It's like talking about we're talking about the difference in complexity between reading academic papers and the alphabet. That's how much it will devolve. We're squabbling over about what letter comes next, and we're ignoring the broader conversation around it. It is really hard, and this is the problem that I'm talking about, is that we pretend as if complex situations are simple, and we did that with the vaccine mandate, which also has been debated for many years. It's a rigorous philosophical debate about whether or not mandates are ethical, right? We learned it in university 2 years before the pandemic started, right? It was a debate. It was not obvious what the solution to that was, but then the politicians parade around as if it was obvious, or you know, on each side parade around as if it's obvious. It's not obvious. It remains to be not obvious, right?
But I think there was some conclusion, or not even conclusion, it was just stability in the argument for the longest period of time, and they had the opportunity to fuck with that because people were incredulous to the argument.
Yeah.
People were like, okay, well, yeah, no, vaccines do make sense. And then they were like, well, does this vaccine make sense? This is a treatment. You know, this isn't even classed as a vaccine. Hold on. Do you know what we should do? We should go to the Oxford Dictionary and change what vaccine actually means, and then give that treatment to everybody for something that can't kill you anyway.
Yeah, these things, once they hit the political level, many complicated games get played like this, right? But my problem is...
It's like an infinite Rubik's Cube at that point.
Yeah. But I'm going to go to the source of the problem. You look at Israel-Palestine conflict at the moment. It is a complicated... It is probably... I would go so far as to say it's probably the most complicated conflict. I don't want to say of all time because there's probably events beyond my knowledge, but it's up there.
Did Michael Jackson fuck those kids?
That's the one.
Yeah.
But it is so complicated. There are so many.
Is that why it's pushed on America, like pushed into American media so much? Because it is so complicated. Because there will never be an absolute.
No. So why America cares so much, because it's America's foothold in the Middle East.
Yeah, but right? they're going to get the oil regardless. So do you think for the political spotlight or limelight, if you will, it gives the everyday Joe to like have an opinion about something that doesn't
no,
need
I
to...
think it's real. I think the concerns are real, right?
Okay.
It's ideological. Here's why is because if it was that, then the politicians would squabble about it, and they would be incentivized to have a differing opinion. It would cause the parties to diverge on the issue. But Trump and Biden are both pro-Israel, which is really
because they want the vote, right?
Yeah. So Biden, it is 100% within Biden's. I don't want to say 100%, but to a degree, it's within Biden's interest to split with Trump on this issue and to be softer on the issue of the Middle East, right? Because at the moment,
In what regard?
So
do you go for Israel or Hamas at that point?
So it's within Biden's interest at the moment to support Palestine, right? Because he is getting shredded by the younger population of Democrats. Absolutely hate him at the moment. It's stupid to hate him because Trump is harsher on Palestine than he is. So why you would put, even if Biden is the lesser of two evils if you're pro-Palestinian, it makes no sense to go after Biden or say you're not voting for Biden because Trump is worse on the issue. It doesn't make any sense, right? But it's within Biden's issue to soften on it, creating a divide, right? So Trump is very pro-Israel. Biden is, well, to a degree, it's complicated, really complicated with Biden, Trump and Israel. Anyway, the point is that because there is that nuance and complexity, it's probably an issue that's really important. Middle East is very important, right? And also, Israel has been an ally of America for a long time, and America looks after their allies very well.
Well, they own all the music companies. Kanye. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it just seems, man, that to me, and like everyone has a different opinion on it, it seems to be that things that create volatility within certain groups, like take university goers or college goers, or whatever the fuck they call them in the US, a lot of people have a really, really, really deep understanding of these problems and issues in Gaza, and they're not going to any of the rallies.
That's the thing. That's exactly what I'm talking about, right? Is that anyone who really knows this? Well, that's not true. There are some people who are very
deep,
aware
right?
of.
Yeah.
They
have like families over there and shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but pretending.
But you
like
see what I'm saying? Like, there's kids going and they're like,
Yeah,
they're
yeah. You have them walk
saved
around on the
to
street.
the river to the whatever the fuck the
from a river to the sea.
river
And by
to
the
the
way,
sea,
I'm not picking either side. The Israeli side do this as well. They like to pretend like there isn't a conversation there to do with the Palestinians.
Yeah.
There 100% is. And each side, the extremes of each side, want to pretend as if there's no conversation to be had. And this is a philosophical trend which, in my estimation, has happened recently, which is really weird. And this is what I think is causing the problem. Each side jump to the extremes so they can pretend as if holding the other position is unreasonable, right? That is bad. That is really bad for discussion because you have people in the middle, right, who might see one side as reasonable. You have people on the other side saying, you're the devil incarnate for holding that position or seeing that as reasonable. And that goes, well, I know I'm not the devil incarnate, so I'm going to run to the other side. For example, if you have someone who has their sympathies for October 7th, right, and they go, wow, that was really bad. I don't think going after and killing civilians is something that is in protest of anything. It's, you should, attack the military. Let's say someone held that position. And then you have the pro-Palestinian side saying, you are genocidal. They go, well, whoa, hold on. I just think that was bad. And I understand there is a lot of nuance to that. But having such an aggressive approach is going to push that person more Israel. That's what happens. Same with the other side. You have someone who has sentiments to the Palestinian side, and then you have like someone Israeli that's like, wipe the country out, wipe it off the map, and it's like, whoa, hold on, no. And that you're going to push them to the other side. So that's what extremities do, right? And I feel like watching the Trump-Biden thing debate, it just looked like that in real time. Like, there was no agreement. Like, there needs to be some level of we are on the same side, and there isn't. And that's a big problem. I think that it comes down to the individual. This is why I'm saying this, is I think it should come down, to the listener. Be careful about casting stones, like
in glass houses.
In glass houses as well, but also in
glass
non-glass houses. Even if you're standing outside, right? Just be careful. Unless
it's adulterating woman.
Yeah.
You can cast stones all you want if you're in Gaza.
Jesus.
That won't be in the podcast.
No, I was going to say, you might cut it out. Yeah, be careful about casting stones because I guess, someone might be trying to sell you stones to cast.
Yes, yes. There seems to be a lot of that. Now, I think what you're getting at is it almost seems like a blanket statement for any kind of political jargon that they're trying to push, because it's the opposite of an echo chamber. You're like anti-echo chamber at that point. If you're saying, hey, you're genocidal and we're trying to chill out. Because one side, like take Israel, everyone was against Israel a couple months back, and then flip the coin, they tried a treaty, and then Gaza went against that. Do you know Dave Smith? Do you follow him?
Vaguely, yeah.
He is so clued on. He was on the Joe Rogan Experience, and I was fucking listening to it, and the dude knows everything about everything. And it's like, well, okay, it made me feel stupid for even thinking I knew anything about it. And that's the issue.
Very deep.
That's the issue.
Books on books have been written about this conflict. Yeah.
I felt like I shouldn't have a position because I'm not there.
Yeah.
I don't feel like... Well, it does affect us because if we go to fucking war, then we're all fucked. But it seems at this point it needs to be figured out between the countries. And if they're saying, "Hey, we don't have a country, how can we figure it out?" Well, then that needs to be taken into account as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. So, like bringing it back, I have strong opinions about these issues. Right, but the thing is that, and this is the point I'm making, I'm very careful about what I put out, right? Because I don't know. Like, I don't know. And a lot of people don't know, but they're speaking. And it's okay. I am actually for putting your opinion out there because you have to have a position on some way. But what I'm saying is, this is the bad thing. Is that casting certainty on issues such as these, on issues such as the mandate, and issues such as abortion, issues such as the Middle East, is dangerous because there is truth on both sides, and everyone doesn't want to admit that fact because it feels like you're fence sitting, right? But this comes back to I have a central philosophy about this, right? And it's pretty much that if you look in movies, right? Have you seen Dune 2?
No. Good, right?
You have to.
Yeah?
It's a must.
Okay.
It's a must.
All right.
Yeah. So anyway, but...
It's not out of the cinemas yet, is it?
Huh?
Is it out of the cinemas yet?
Ooh, I don't know.
I think it might be.
It's on streaming, so you can just purchase it on your TV.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What is it like Star Wars? I heard it was like Star Wars.
It predates Star Wars. Yeah.
But it's about that same book, right?
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah. It's similar, like, politics and overcoming. Right, but I'm going to use Star Wars as a really good example, right? So, order and chaos. I think I talked about this last time I was on, right? It's like, which is good and which is bad? Is order good or is chaos good? Which one?
Stephen Hawking would say both.
Exactly, and that's a right answer, right? But the issue is that when chaos takes over, order is seen as the shining hope. Then everyone runs to... It's like a ship that's like, everyone runs to one side and then the ship tips. And it's like, oh my God, the ship is tipping. What's our solution? The other side. Let's all run to the other side. And then that's what happens. That's why it's a seesaw. That's why people always say the pendulum swings. Is because everyone has an over commitment to something that has a kernel of truth in it.
Yes.
Right. So you see, America was very like McCarthyism and all of that. It was very going after, you know, anyone doing wrong or whatever. It was very strict. And then you have the counterculture happening roughly at the same time. You have everyone going equality, freedom, right? Enough of the order, enough of the control, right? And then you have that. Some might say it went too far. And then you have people, you know, wanting too much freedom, a little too much chaos, a little too much do whatever you want. We need control. And then control now becomes the shining hope again, right? Mm-hmm. And it isn't just control. It's a variety of...
Pass the Arepa.
This one?
Yeah, please.
It's a variety of factors. For example, social behavior at the moment is a really big one, right? So you have people saying that, you know, the world's gone crazy, everyone wants to be everything and all of that. And then they'll go, okay, what we need to do, go back to traditional values, right? But if you do that too far and you're like, oh, we'll go to traditionalism, you know, all of the little freedoms that you got along the way will now, you know, you can't hold those anymore. And then you have living contradictions. You have all these like right-wing...
Living in an Orwell.
Yeah. You have people like, this is like Andrew Tate, for example. Andrew Tate's very interesting because it's like, he represents this kind of like return to traditional masculinity. But he is anything but...
It's not Western, though. It's not Western masculinity. It's not seen as talking about your feelings and whatnot. It's very Eastern masculinity, you know, quite stoic and...
Yep. But he wants everyone to be manly, right? Mm-hmm. And he wants, you know, return to, you know, he's against promiscuity and you know, the sexual revolution. Well, that's the thing, right? Is that he is against that. He criticizes...
I think verbally he is against it, but if you look in a physicality standpoint...
That's exactly what I'm talking about, right? Like what he promotes is against what he actually is. He would not be able to survive in the world that he verbally promotes.
Yes.
You see this a lot with a lot of right-wing online creators, is that like they have this criticism of the sexual revolution and... you know, people being promiscuous and having multiple partners in open relationships and all of that. And then they themselves are living a life that contradicts that in really interesting ways.
Would it be a contradiction if he has $500 million and he can create the world of his own accord? Would it be a contradiction, or would he just be living in that?
So what do you
mean? If he has the money that he has now, and some people are stating that he doesn't, it was all just a facade. But come on, he's got a Bugatti and shit. Like it's a $5 million car. Of course, he's got the fucking money that he's got.
Yeah.
My thoughts on it is if he has that money and he can segregate himself in a third world country and have these ideologies, he lives then in an Eastern mindset away from. He can espouse what he wants verbally, live a life that's ego-filled and narcissistic, and nobody's there to tell him off for it. He can be a sexist, misogynistic piece of shit, but nobody's there to tell him that what he's doing is sexist or misogynistic. So to him, does it matter what anybody else thinks?
Well, this is why I think it falls on the responsibility of the listener. Like, we're all very happy with holding, you know, speakers account. But I think we need to start holding the listener account.
Interesting. I like that.
This is all what I'm saying. All this ties into pretty much that point, is that, like, not just the listener, but the watcher of the debates. Like, be careful about, you know, playing ideological games, right? This is something I learned in the last, you know, few years, right? Yeah, people will, you know, people who normally would have been anti-Trump are finding themselves pro-Trump just because Biden exists. And that's a problem. That's a problem.
A lot of people are taking the next bounce, if you will, and going RFK though. A lot of people are going, well, he's still right wing, but he's not a fucking grab him on the pussy, you know?
Well, the fact is that RFK is a completely reasonable candidate, but because everyone is too interested in playing ideological games, he gets completely overlooked. Yeah. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. This is, by the way, there are this is just
that, and he sounds like he's coughing up a hairball of it.
Yeah,
always.
it's not.
Hello.
Yeah, it's not helping him.
Yeah.
He sounds like Biden acts sometimes. So
He's the wordplay of Biden.
yeah. Oh, you have to admit, like, you know, I'm not picking sides.
Got to
You
stop
have to admit,
Medicare.
Biden did not look good in that debate.
Holy
he didn't look good at all.
Have you seen? Did you see all the blunders?
I did,
on
yeah.
YouTube. They've like put him into a reel.
Yeah.
It's like 4 minutes long of just.
Yeah. It's not good. It's not good. But here's the problem. Right? This is what's rough. Biden made a pretty good presidency. His presidency is actually pretty good.
Can you say that with the amount of inflation that he's put through and the wars that have been like funded?
Yeah.
Do you know Ukraine? They've sent $75 billion to Ukraine, right? The US. Do you know they don't actually send any money?
Oh yeah.
Do you know what they send?
It is, I believe, it's just the weapons.
Weapons.
Yeah, it's just the weapons themselves.
What is that saying to Russia? Think about it. $75 billion US dollars of guns and ammunition. That's saying, hey, we want a part of this, but we want to be a third party. To Putin, that would be okay, get this. 3 days ago on fucking CNN, Miami, 2.3 miles off of Miami, there is a nuclear submarine from Russia being pointed at Miami.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good.
What the fuck? And then the draft gets instated. It seems like both parties know that there's a war coming, and nobody's being really honest about it.
We don't. Here's the thing. We have no idea.
It's almost like if Trump's going to get it, if Trump's winning this,
This is the thing.
it's like press the big red button.
I'm a bit scared of Trump getting in. That's the thing, right?
Is it? Is that the reason why?
Look, I'm looking at.
You continue talking. I need more water. You good?
Yeah, all good. What I'm looking at is the election with the context of the potential for war.
Okay.
I'll say it one more time. What I'm looking at is the election or the political sides with the intention. With the context of war. So, do I care so much about the squabbling about I don't know. You know how they were squabbling on stage and all that. I think it's ridiculous, right?
They weren't allowed to. They fined $10,000 or some shit. For
really?
That. Yeah.
Wow, interesting. It's like
it was supposed to be
UFC.
Yeah. Well, their last debate, they were constantly bickering over each other, and it was supposed to be this time 60 seconds for each candidate, and you weren't allowed to talk over one another.
Yeah. That's insane. Imagine giving either side a $10,000 donation and then watching them do that. It's like.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Well done, Donnie.
Yeah. But here's the thing, right? Is that no one knows. And anyone who says, like even Kevin Rudd saying that, World War III is on the table. He didn't say World War III. He spoke around it, but pretty much said, like he danced around saying that a worldwide conflict or a huge significant conflict on par with previous wars is likely. Right, and the reasoning he gave that, by the way, is because
that's so scary.
It is. Xi Jinping is 71 years old, I believe, and so is Putin. Putin's army will never be as big as it is now, and there are rumors that he is
1.6 million.
Yeah, they're having a population crisis. China's having a population crisis. It's in the constitution that China has to take back Taiwan before 2050. There's a lot of forces. There's beliefs that Xi Jinping is also sick as well. Both of them are old, sick men with population crises.
Did you watch the Tucker Carlson Putin interview?
Yes and no.
He did not look like a sick man. He looks like that motherfucker's thriving.
How much effort do you think that they put behind that interview? I think everything was manufactured. The questions were manufactured. It's pretty much the reason why I didn't really watch it. I watched key parts of it. I watched the beginning and then and then highlights. It was nothing but propaganda, and I don't mean that in a bad way necessarily. Like, do you really expect that the leader of a country at war isn't just going to hard defend everything that he does. There was no utility in an interview with someone, in the middle of a war. What are they going to say other than just justifying their claim?
Look, if he was being completely honest, I think it would still be seen as a lie because of how many people are against him. But the stories that he told about taking back Ukraine and whatnot because it was part of the Soviet, that was intense.
Yeah, it was interesting. It's very interesting.
It was very, very convincing with his argument.
Yeah. But the issue is, here's the issue. He holds nukes, and there is always a claim.
Sweet nukes too.
Yeah, there's there's probably many claims that many countries have around the world, but you have to realize that the responsibility you have for the action of invading another country that is a globalized world with treaties is huge, right? And doing such an act could result in World War III or nuclear winter. And I don't know. I just think that the interview was interesting, but nothing of utility, I don't think, can be derived from it in terms of reconciling anything, right? Here's the go on.
Is it the Joker Batman thing though?
What do you mean?
Well, if the US is Batman, he's a dark kind of billionaire, eccentric person who's willing to do damage if needed. He would never kill the Joker because the Joker is needed for his it's almost like his yang, right? His yin to his yang.
Yeah.
He needs that to survive. They need to be one to be coherent with each other.
Yeah.
It's almost the same with China and America, but it seems like if there's too many yangs to the yin, it could go completely wrong.
Yeah. I think these issues are so complicated that I cannot fit a Batman Joker analogy into them fully. But I understand what you're saying. I don't think it's the case. I think there are so many. What the point I'm getting at is there are so many forces tugging on the politicians in these countries at the moment. It's insane. Like, so you look at the ages of the leaders of these countries that both want to claim territory, right? The attention of the world for, with regards to China, the attention of the world is on Russia and Israel and everything at the moment, right? And elections coming up. It's not like there's very fertile ground for action, Apparently he's sick. Apparently, he wants to, people say he wants to be the next Mao. He wants to take back Taiwan. Is there a claim for Taiwan to China? Absolutely. It was a province of China for many years. It pretty much is China in terms of historically speaking.
They speak Mandarin,
it's its own
right?
culture, huh?
They speak Mandarin.
I believe they speak all the same language. It was just a party split, a few decades ago, and those people who live in Taiwan have a right to, I'm by no means saying that Taiwan needs to go back to China, right? There's a whole reason as to why. Some people say that the reason why
Uyghur Muslims and whatnot.
Yeah, some people say that the reason why China wants to take back Taiwan is purely due to the semiconductors.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
Or some people say no, it's because, they want to reunify China.
It could be a whole bunch of different things.
Exactly. It could be reasons that we don't even understand. Reasons that aren't even in the conversation.
Literally, because it's a different fucking language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have claims that China's a paper tiger and their military, has never had any combat experience. Their training is subpar. They have 1/3 the military spending of the United States. The next biggest 3 allies of the United States has an equal spending to China.
It kind of seems like that's false information though, because they have been putting a lot more effort into like other things. Take technological communications. With Huawei, bro, they were selling satellites to America for their army's use, and then they were just farming all the data.
Yeah.
Trump was the one that said, actually, fuck Huawei, that needs to be banned in America. Well, you're like, oh, hold on, what does this guy know that we don't fucking know?
Yeah. We that's the thing.
Meanwhile, you can buy a fucking Huawei phone at Kohl's. Like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
You can still do that, dude. They're still legal in Australia. What we're the second party to America. If America wants to invade, we're probably going to back them up. You know, like,
Without
but
doubt,
we're just letting our tyrannical counterpart ban shit, and we're not. What? We don't ban abortion. Why are they banning abortion? Don't we just follow them with everything? Like,
Yeah.
why can't you buy mushrooms, dude?
Yeah. Look, it's a mess, right? It's a mess, and maybe someone sees it all laid out, right? But then there's just the background chaos of the universe that is unpredictable. Like, for a good example is that, like, you know, all the things with Iran and Israel were happening, and then out of nowhere, president dies because of a airplane crash. It's like, who saw that coming? No one saw that coming. No one knows what is next. We don't know whether an assassination is coming. We don't know whether or not, you know, Russia will decide to do something or pull out nukes or not. We don't know whether China will do something, right? It is chaotic. And what America has to understand is that there are all the other countries in the world which have similar values came from America. America is the symbol of freedom, right? And that country is being split apart, and it is forgetting that they are an island in a sea of chaos with monsters lurking around the waters. Those monsters being very powerful nations with very bad attitudes to all the things that America holds holy. Like, there's a you know, a cultural meme about how a lot of particularly left-wing people criticize America, you know, for being backwards and like all of that. And it's like, if you tried to do, you know, whatever life you lived in another country, they would kill you for it. Right? America is the best we have in terms of, you know, not just America, Australia, Britain, all of the democratic values, right? The Western countries and other countries as well, right, who are also very good nations and hold very good values, right? They're all we've got in terms of progress. Like, if people are interested in, for example, trans rights, you are not going to get trans rights in a country like China, Pakistan, Russia. You're not going to, right? The best we have, if you say that, you know, America wants to eliminate trans people, which is a very extreme claim that people make, America is the best you got, right? Or maybe you got some Swedish countries and so on, right? But
Thailand.
yeah, or whatever it might be, right? In terms of the world powers at the moment,
Bali.
yeah, I'm
Ben
sure.
Chong.
I do not know, but
I'll just keep rattling off countries. Like, oh shit.
there are very few countries which hold the values needed to move forward to the next place that we are going, right?
Yeah.
And we need Biden, we need Trump, either of them, to perform their best. We need our enemies, politically, Democrat, Republican, to be the best version of themselves. So we don't want Biden to be sick. We don't want his mental state to be declining, right? But at the moment, you have people in America waiting for Biden to fall over again and be like, yes, that's wrong, right? Because if he wins, he has to be sharp, right? Now, I understand the claim that if he's not sharp, then he needs to leave or find a better option. That's completely fine. But we have Americans at the moment wanting Biden to fall over on stage. It's not good. It's a mess. And I don't think people are realizing how much of a mess that they are contributing to, unfortunately.
Give him a couple more hours. He will. He will.
He will what? Fall over?
He will fuck up. Yeah, he'll fall over. He'll do some stupid... Well, he's already done verbally stupid things already on stage. Well, it makes me sad to think that they're still using this guy as a puppet. Like, let that filthy animal Kamala Harris get in. Let her get in, bro.
Yep.
Like, she did some fucked up shit to the black community, man. She was like she was an ex-judge. She's sentencing like people for weed, and then as soon as she's in as vice president, she started like hooraying that we've got weed laws allowing nothing happened to the people that were in jail. Nothing. She didn't excuse or pardon anybody that she locked away.
Yeah.
Fucking bitch.
If Russia or China or some aggressive country were to do something that threatens, America or Australia,
Yeah.
I'm standing behind her.
Yeah, true.
That needs to sit underneath the foundation of all criticisms against her, though. That's what I'm saying, right?
Did you ever hear the joke that Shane Gillis said about Joe Biden? Mm-mm. He's like, Joe Biden is the first president that can be punch assassinated.
Oh yeah. I did see that. Yeah. I love Shane Gillis. I reckon he's carrying the comedy scene at the moment.
He's probably the #1 comedian in the world at the moment. Yeah.
Have you seen Tires on Netflix?
Bro, what the fuck?
I watched as soon as it came out. I watched it.
Yeah. It was stupid, bro.
Yeah, it was. Exactly what you want, though.
Exactly what you're after.
Yeah.
Because it kind of seems like a lot of comedians and stuff these days get far too political far too quickly. Mm-hmm. And he's not about that at all. He's like, show me the stupidest shit that's going on and I will laugh. Yeah, it's 100%. It's so fucking beautiful. It's great to see.
Yeah, comedians like him and Bill Burr effectively do racial humor well. No one can do racial humor like Bill Burr. Bill Burr makes stereotypes of, white people and black people, and he'll have black audiences crying, right? Because he's not mean-spirited. It's just so well done. But then you have like these other comedians, and they're like, I don't know, making these like broad generalizations of like one race, and it's like, okay, that's why I'm not a fan of like Bobby Lee and all that.
Why?
Yeah, I think
he is a bit retarded.
It would take an hour, like 2 hours to unpack why I'm not a fan. There's a whole history of things, right? But generally, the whole humor of like,
you understand his comedy though, right?
Yeah, I do. But I don't think
he's playing off being the dumb Asian kind of.
Yeah, but I don't think he can do anything but that, and I don't think he likes it as much as he puts out.
Right. Right. Well, he was more of an actor than a comedian, and I think the only reason as to why he became an actor was because of his silly comedy.
Yeah.
And he sat on the same hour and a half of material. I say an hour and a half because he had more than an hour that he was spreading around. He tried some new jokes here and there, but the Comedy Store, he locked into the same hour for fucking 15 years. Mm-hmm. Like, funny, don't get me wrong, but I think people that are always challenging themselves and doing new stuff and going with the times, that's always fun. That's always good.
I think that there are really, really intelligent applications of comedy. And a good example of this is Norm Macdonald, right?
Oh, amazing.
Is that I feel like
R.I.P.
Yeah, I feel like it's to someone who doesn't know his humor, it's not funny.
It's retarded.
It's so stupid.
It's retarded.
But that's what's so unique about it, right? Is that there isn't, people say, oh, comedians are bad, comedians are not funny. It's like you can almost not even say a comedian is not funny because it might not be your brand of humor.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah.
I know people who think that Sacha Baron Cohen is like the worst comedian. Like it's not funny. He just pretends. Too. Yeah, right. Yeah. And it's like, I don't think so. I think he's a genius.
He's a fucking genius.
I think he's a genius, right? But I completely respect someone who goes, oh, that's not funny, because there's a lot of comedians that I think like, it's like, I don't know how you find that funny, right?
There's a lot of it, dude. Like, I know people that think Mitch Hedberg was fucking retarded because he was on heroin saying one-liner jokes. Yeah. My favorite joke ever in the history of jokes is from Mitch Hedberg, and it says, he says, I can't remember what fucking special it's from, but he's like, some guy asked me while I was walking down the street if I wanted a frozen banana, and I said no. Then I went, I want a regular banana later, so yes.
So stupid.
So stupid, bro. Yeah. But it's just like little one-liners, like, I want a regular banana later. Yeah. Because it's going to defrost.
Yeah, that's it.
Like, rice is the one food that if you're hungry for 2,000 of one thing. Like, it's so stupid.
Yeah. But that's it, right? But
it's the same as fucking politics, bro. It's just like your brand of politics might be different to your brand of comedy. Like, it's this everything that runs. I think politics can be artful, by the way. I wanted to tell you this. So I think there's an artistic form of politics that just goes unnoticed. RFK, beautiful example of it. RFK has maintained a democratic side, this full-on beast of an American, in an artful way. He's done it beautifully. He's carried off the shoulders of giants with his family name, with Robert Kennedy Jr. and whatnot, his father, and then John F. Kennedy.
It's very culturally relevant.
Very
like
culturally,
on the podcast and all that.
But he's also loved by people. Right? Yeah. Am I wrong by saying that? He's loved by the general American because of what his family represented and because of how he went after Fauci and whatnot in the book. You read the book yet?
I have not read the book. No.
Holy fucking shit. The Real Anthony Fauci by Robert F. Kennedy.
Oh, wow.
Read that shit, dude.
Okay, interesting.
It is fucked up. There's a reason as to why Fauci's being absolutely rorted right now in court. And I think they're getting a lot of their facts from that book. He went deep in the paint, bro.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Politics is. I think a big problem is that everyone needs to focus. Everyone needs to focus on themselves. I think that's the
very
way
hard.
Forward. It is
when you're stuck in an echo chamber of what other people are espousing.
It is,
and if you're
because they sell your personal problems as a part of a broader issue, which is always to a degree true, because one person's problems is always interweaved with a complex, multi-layered cultural, societal, but also individual problem. For example, depression. Depression is something you individually experience, but there's an argument to be made that culture influences it. So with every one man's personal problems can be weaved into a narrative about society. And that is a really big problem. I think that everyone needs to turn inward. I know sounds very Buddhist, but I'm by no means a Buddhist. But it's the truth. I think people needs to have your political opinions, right? Vote, do all your duties and so on. But painting the other side as the problem is too much. It's going too far. It's like crystals for me. You know crystals. People believe that. Crystals. Here's what it is, right? Here's why people get sucked into things.
Do you believe in chakras, though?
I don't know.
Okay, well, that's okay to not know.
It's not even complicated. It's we can get into that a second. Anyway. We can get into mystical stuff as well in a minute if you want.
Okay,
yeah,
let's go.
We'll get into that. Make a case for all things mystical.
All right, let's go.
Anyway, but I don't believe that crystals do anything practical. They might have some very interesting interactions with frequencies and so on due to their structure. But here's the thing.
That's
here's
the
why,
argument, right?
All to do with frequency, right? But there's
the density of the
far
stone.
too many. Yeah, there's far too many jumps in logic. It's like, oh well, humans operate at a frequency. Like if you put us to a thing, we have a frequency. Crystals do. Anyway, I think it is not true. I think that if you're suffering, here's why I think this is because I had a friend who really, really, really suffered mentally, like almost as bad as you can get. And they were so wrapped into Eastern remedies, Reiki, crystals, and I'm like, okay, this is cute when people are like, oh, I'm low energy, or I'm not feeling good about myself, let me try crystals. But when you have real people who are a threat to themselves and others, and their solution is to save up their money for their next acupuncture session, then you have a problem, right? And here's what I thought. This is why I relate it to politics, is because the people aren't looking for crystals as a solution to their problems. They're looking for a pleasant diagnosis of their problems. That's what they're looking for. They want to be told not that their problems can go away by crystals, but really all their problems are as a result of the lack of involvement in crystals. It isn't due to yourself. It's not due to you might having a mental health issue or a psychological disorder. It's the energies. That's what they're looking for. That's the medication or the thing they get addicted to when they buy, more and more and more crystals or whatever it is. It's the notion that all of their problems are derived from the lack of getting involved. It's interesting. It's an interesting distinction between wanting the solution and wanting the diagnosis of the problem. And that's the thing with politics, is that people aren't looking for the solution with politics. That's why you never see anyone get involved in politics. People aren't willing to go around and do door knocking and drop flyers and spread information. They don't want to do any of political work. They just want the diagnosis of the problem. That's the difference.
Two things on that. People always want to escape pain or increase pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Is it one and the same if you have like depression or anxiety?
Mm-hmm.
Is it one and the same to say, hey, I don't know what this is. I don't want to lean towards pharmaceutical drugs. Let me have the pleasant diagnosis and let me try and work this out with intention rather than going for pharmaceutical drugs or whatever the fucking case is. I understand what the point is on wanting to kind of step back from, like the airy fairy mystical, hello, my God, I'm spiritual, that type of shit. But I do see why people would lean into it. And that's not me judging if you don't want to do it. And if you do want to do it, I don't give a fuck either. But I'm just saying, like, there seems to be a reason as to why it's there. And I think there's a reason as to why depression's there. I think there's a reason as to why all these other things are there is because they just don't want...
They don't want to hear this one thing.
Exactly.
They don't want to hear this one thing. Ready? They don't want to hear it's complicated. That's what they don't want to hear. They want to hear it's simple. Because if it's simple, now we can develop a simple system.
Well, that's the same as like diagnosis of actual diseases, right? Because with my Crohn's disease, they were like, well, it could be ulcerative colitis, it could be Crohn's disease, and let's never give him an exact, because then we can bounce around. Oh, well, that's something Crohn's does. Oh, that's something ulcerative colitis does. Let's never give him exactly what it is. Let's just have him on a spectrum. And if he has more severity of cases of like symptoms of like, I should stop saying like, I say like way too many times. Me too. If you have more severative case symptoms, they will be more likely to push you towards Crohn's, where I was against it completely. I basically, I said to myself, well, what is this? Like, if they can't give us a notion of this is what you have, where does that sit me at? Yeah. I wanted to be free of this. I wanted to understand what was going on. And when I took my own authority into my own hands and started trusting myself rather than just the authority of a white fucking coat, I was like, whoa, I can heal myself fucking instantly. And I did. I did do that.
Interesting. But you have to, this is the thing, right? You have to admit that there's an opposite version of you. Someone who has been trying for the last 15 years to take matters into their own hands and then failing. It's like, I can't take it into my own hands. And then they just get a doctor's visit and they're like, you have this, and then they're fixed.
Yes.
Right. So
well,
that's
me.
all I'm
that
saying.
Was me at 10 surgeries before my 11th.
Yeah.
My 11th was to show me that I didn't have it. Because I sought out another doctor. But 10 before that, I was like, well, how long until you're going to trust yourself?
Yep. Right. But that's just what I'm getting at, is that these problems are extremely multifaceted. Right?
Psychological is far more multifaceted than just physical.
Right. Yeah. And that's why, depression interweaves with that psychological component, right? But many of the problems that we have on a day-to-day basis are psychological problems. And these psychological problems are being possessed by political narratives. That's ending the political conversation there. That's kind of my thing. My thing is about focus on yourself, in that don't be too quick to think that your life can only get better via political change, right? Inflation is bad. But the one thing that people do not like to hear is that you can make inflation not as bad by changing how you think, right? And that's like, well, you can't change the economy by changing how you think, but you can change the actions that you do, how you respond to it, how you frame the problem, right? All those factors can change your level of suffering, right? It's not going to make the problem go away, but it will have a very substantial effect in some way. That if everyone's in inflation, right? What's better, a world where everyone's in inflation and everyone's running around, with their head chopped off, or a world where we're in inflation, but everyone is still content, willing to seek out solutions, right? But aren't willing to jump to extremes to point fingers about what caused inflation, right? Because if the problem is multifaceted, our worst enemy is thinking that it's simple. So we can make things better. We can make the world better by just changing how we frame the issue, right? So it might sound like something obvious that you get out of a what's it called, a bookstore, but it's true, unfortunately, and that's kind of missed, right? That mind's very powerful, as you know, but that's all we have. Is I think that I would advocate someone really change how they think before they get too stuck into political problems.
I think you're right. I think there's a glory to self-evaluation prior to looking to the external for reasons as to why you fucked up. I think you should probably find out why you fucked up before blaming anything externally.
Or whether you've made an error at all.
Yeah, exactly, right. It could just be the narrative changed on the exterior, and you fell victim to a counterpart of that change.
Yeah,
which is weird. Like if you if you go, oh, nobody will ever love me because you've just been broken up with. No, it's just because that one person doesn't.
Yeah. The mind's so good at creating extremes and creating narratives of those extremes.
Yes.
Right. Something I struggled with a lot is my mind doing that to do with like personal relationships, a variety of relationships. Is I'm
Mm.
more quick to criticize myself, but I'll go way too far with that. And
give context.
So, for example, taking responsibility, right? We're told accountability or responsibility is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a famous book by Jocko Willink, Extreme Ownership, right?
Yes.
And I thought it was great, and I really stood by it. And then I realized there is such a thing as too much accountability, right? Because there's a point of which your willingness to accept blame for something that wasn't fully your fault is just as much a lie as putting it on someone else when it wasn't their fault, right? You have to, if we are to treat ourselves as other people, you have to have a relationship with yourself as if you were as valuable as a stranger, right? Because you are a stranger to yourself in some regard. That's a whole deep thought, but it's psychological consensus that you have to treat yourself as a person just as anyone else, and being unfair to that person who is you is just as egregious as being unfair to someone else, right? So it's a good practice to take ownership and accountability for everything that you can when it's fair, right?
So does that mean like the standard dick in the street who's unwillingly being an asshole to everyone, not helping people like old ladies cross the street, like spitting on cars or whatever the fuck it is, I don't know. They're more likely to be adverse to being careful to themselves? In
a very distorted, weird way, yeah. Right? An egotistical narcissist is probably... Now, that can be really harsh on themselves in a very backwards way, but one thing you can say is someone who is narcissistic is that they look after themselves, right? In a funny way. Yeah. Now everyone will say, well, they're narcissistic. It's bad. It's like, yeah, it is bad. But there's something that they're doing right? It's that treating themselves as something valuable, which a lot of people struggle to do. Something I struggle to do, right? That's the thing about extremes. My whole philosophy is anti-extremes, is that there is virtue in, to a degree, this is saying that will be hard to defend. We'll just stick with narcissism. There's some virtues to narcissistic trait, right? Not everything in this world is either a pure good or a pure evil. It's a complex amalgamation of both. Yeah.
Yeah. I've coined the term a life lived backwards. Wait, no, hold on. I fucked that up just then. That's not going to be in the podcast.
Okay.
I've coined the term to live life backwards is live backwards.
Interesting.
What's live backwards?
Evil. I like it. It's good.
Yes.
I'll be thinking about that one. Yeah.
Well, it's right. Like, if you live your life, what does that mean? It means that you're holding true to the constitution of yourself, your being. To go against that is completely evil.
Yeah.
To not look at yourself as a human that deserves love and caring and an affection from your relationships. If you don't give that to others, if you don't look at others in an empathetic, sympathetic way, is that a life lived? Is that being a tyrannical piece of shit? Is that a real life lived? Are you living your life to just get the money? Is that a life lived, or is that just get the money? You know?
The thing is that
evil? Who fucking knows?
Yeah.
And what the fuck is evil anyway?
That's the thing. Life's hard, right?
Well, is it a book from 2,000 years ago that's accrued by 160 people's different stories of what happened in that time? Is that really the constitution of how you want to live your life? Maybe. Maybe it's another different book, or maybe it's not a book at all. Maybe it's just how you feel. You know, is murdering bad? Well, I don't want to be murdered, so yes, that's fucking bad, right? Like you can kind of.
I know what you're getting. You're getting at that. There is. Humans have a very hard way of finding out what is truly good and evil. We don't absolutely know that, right? We have our intuition, we have our culture, which says this always has been a bad thing, and it is a bad thing, and people refer to culture, people refer to religion and so on, and people refer to, you know, how they're raised. It's very complex, right? This is the whole field of philosophy, is finding out what is the correct pattern of being, right? I have mine that I've arrived at, and the issue with creating a pattern of being is that you create actions which violate the pattern of being that you might not have seen that they belong in that pattern, but just not in the way that you thought. So we have, this is a complicated way of saying that we have a habit of painting things as evil, which are not, and painting things as good, which are not. That's the problem, right? So it's like, how do we get through that? And my way is, what I found is that playing the game of philosophies creates extremes. It creates a path to salvation, and if you have a path to salvation, you have a path to evil. And for example, Buddhism. Buddhism is about the idea, let's just start with the Four Noble Truths, right? Life is suffering, overcoming suffering. Sorry, I've gone and forgot the Four Noble Truths, which is insane because I know them very well. Life is suffering. Suffering is created by craving. Overcoming craving is overcoming suffering, and then the way to overcome craving is the Noble Eightfold Path, right? It's a Noble Eightfold Path is a separate kind of system, right? But pretty much it's saying that desire creates suffering. That is true. This is the problem, right? Is that many philosophies discover truths that are incomplete. Desire does cause suffering. However, non-desire also causes suffering, and that's what's absent, right? Is that if we don't have a desire to do good things in the world, then other people will suffer. If we don't have a desire to improve ourselves, then we're going to suffer, right?
So there's positive desire.
There is positive desire, right? That means, what does that mean? If desire causes suffering and there's positive desire, what's the inference from there? There's positive suffering. That's what they don't want to engage in, right? Is that unfortunately the world, suffering comes tethered to the world that we're in. So maybe a strategy is to not view suffering as necessarily a bad thing. It's like, well, the definition of suffering is bad. It's like, maybe not, right? So it's complicated, right? And this is just my opinion on Buddhism. There will be a response to that a Buddhist would give. By the way, I haven't spoken to many Buddhists that actually can give a response to that. But
because they're all silent, or no? I'm kidding.
Well, in a way, yes. In a way, like you have real hardcore Buddhists. They live as monks that society gives and donates, you know, to them. They give them food. They give them like a shelter. People look after them.
Monasteries,
right?
Yes.
And that's a problem because none of those are going to go down, you know, none of those people are going to have the fire needed to really change the world and bring other people out of suffering because they're too obsessed with their own enlightenment, right? We're not ready for an enlightenment.
Discipline.
Yeah, it's selfish pursuit of non-suffering. It's like, okay, you go off and pursue your non-suffering while everyone around you suffers. It's like, well, the path, they would say, the path is that everyone should do what the monks are doing and then everyone's going to be liberated out of suffering. But that's not the case. Some people cannot afford to live like a monk. Some people have to live and feed their children, right? And this is a problem which is not addressed in Buddhism, right? Because those hardcore Buddhists benefit off of all the people engaging in suffering so that they can not so that they can go off and find liberation, which I don't believe exists in this world, right? So, or if it does, we are nowhere near ready for that because, you know, there's too much suffering on a material level. Right? Liberating yourself from psychological suffering is excellent, but physical suffering trumps that. So you have people who are starving. It's like, well, your solution is just to find psychological, enlightenment. And it's like, no, it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So that's my problem with Buddhism, right? So Buddhism has so much wisdom in it, though. It has so much wisdom, so much acknowledgement of truths based off of the idea that suffering causes desire. Very complex, very interesting and intricate.
Does that mean that you would take what you like about that and then formulate your own
so there's
philosophy?
You can, but it's very hard to do that because with one philosophy comes a very rigid system that is adhered to. And
but that system's made to be broken, right?
In a way, well, here's the thing, is that taking good from one and then good from another is too chaotic for any one person to really stick to. So people can't be a half Buddhist and half Christian. They might say that they can, but they actually can't execute it because it's too much chaos. Right? It's like, okay, well, I'm cherry picking this one thing. What does that say about all the other things that are connected to it that conflict with my other belief system? I don't think a human being can adequately have two kind of strong belief systems. It needs to be the other truths need to be explained within one. So that's pretty much what, you know, I've been doing on my philosophical pursuit is finding a solution to that. And I have one. Just my kind of perspective, if you're interested in hearing it. I don't know if you have anything to add or
go for it.
Yeah,
pull that mic in.
Remember,
fist from the mouth.
So the way I see it,
I know it's invasive, but
no, it's okay. Yeah, I keep forgetting. The way I see it is that everyone has, in short, a soul. Now this is debated, right? It's debated, and you know, but what I mean by soul,
that don't.
Yeah, I have a different definition for the soul. It's just the immaterial. How should I put it? Everyone is capable of knowing that they exist, but the people who think that there isn't consciousness or there isn't something approximating a soul cannot solve this one problem. And
isn't that just low consciousness, though?
What,
like if you're looking at like a low vibrational awareness, like the people that are turned off, the NPCs of the world.
No, I think it's an expression of very sophisticated consciousness. It's consciousness biting itself in the tail like a snake wrapped around itself. Right. They're smart. You got to give the devil their due. They have very good reasons to believe that there is no consciousness, right? But they're missing one problem, and it's that why are we not mindless automata? Why do we know we exist? That problem is the hard problem of consciousness. It cannot be overcome. There's no reason why we should know that we exist. In theory, we should just be biological machines that can execute the exact same. In theory, we would be having this conversation right now, right? But there will be no one there. It'd just be two animals talking to each other or two machines having a conversation. Imagine like a ChatGPT talking to a ChatGPT. You put them in a room, wipe out the human population. Let's say there's no minds. They will continue to talk and talk and talk and talk with no consciousness there. It's just machines. We should be that if there is no consciousness. We should be just biological machines. However,
which brings it through to the simulation theory, right? Because if there is a consciousness, why do we have it? There's a couple of
I have mine for this, right?
Yeah, okay, let's go.
Yeah, so it's almost like, think about radio waves, or radio waves penetrate everywhere all at once, right?
Yes.
All about. If you don't have radios or some technology that can pick it up, you're not going to know it's there. And let's say, for example, a rock. Well, there's rocks going through the radio waves, but a rock isn't going to be able to vocalize that it has radio waves going through it. But a radio can, because it's the correct orchestration of material matter, which is able to register and communicate that it has it, right?
Radio waves, is it radiation?
No. Yeah, well, everything's radiation. So light's radiation, radio waves, microwaves, all of it's radiation. Okay. Radiation is just
a different frequency.
Yeah. Right. So the wavelengths are different. Right. All the same stuff, but if you shrink or increase the wavelengths, we call it a different thing because it has a different function.
That's Terence Howard's theory on the periodic table. Did you see that?
Oh yeah, complete garbage. I'm sorry.
Really?
Oh, it's so.
Take me home. I wanna know if you're down.